First of all, guys, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. This is kind of a trial run. I've done presentations before when I was with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, which is a wonderful organization, but as you'll see when we get a little farther, my how do I say it? My focus is different than their focus. I mean, it's obviously on suicide. And so I decided to put something together and then, get out to where it's going to count people. And so I thought, what better family than St. Cyprian's? So in a way, you're kind of guinea pigs. And at the end, if you have suggestions, feel free to say, John, you might want to not do this, or John, you might want to get somebody else to narrate it, or whatever. But, so that's where we're at. This is my opening, and the concept I had was it would be up when people came in, as it was. I used this when I had high school kids at Menendez in the club, and I love it. Lily Tomlin, we all know who Lily Tomlin is, I think. I said, somebody ought to do something about that. Then I realized I'm somebody. And that's what I was trying to get kids to do, and all of us are guilty, kids and us, to go, that's a shame, somebody ought to do something. And then you walk out. So, again, this is kind of interactive as we go, and if you have a comment or question, feel free to, yell it out, okay? I've called, anytime I've talked about kids, with the title, We Need to Take Better Care of Our Kids. And that's in the very broadest sense. Teenager was just shot up in Jacksonville. You read in the paper where the little boy was hit accidentally. So my point is, I don't know if it's just that we read more about it or that we actually have some instances and that we need to take better care of our kids. And so my focus is, and you'll see why, is teen mental health and teen suicide. And all this can be part of the solution. The real question is, will you? And that's true, I know, with everything. I mean, everybody can't do everything. But that's where I'm hoping people will move to, and hopefully on this issue here. So that's kind of where we're going to go with this. And as we get a little farther, I want to explain, I said I work for the AFSP, and I want to explain the difference, not just between me and them, but in some other instances where I think some differences count majorly. Those of you that know when we have, think about people who have died, you've heard me, or even from the reading, Father, embrace in your arms those beautiful, wonderful teens who have taken their lives because of unbearable pain. And I got to tell you, when I say that, even from reading, I get the chills. It's not just something that's printed out. It's here. And so I worked with high school kids my whole life, and actually by accident. I went to college in Michigan. I didn't know what I was going to be, but everybody's going to college, and my buddies were. All my buddies went into teaching. Okay, why not? I became a teacher, and God must have been looking over me, because He gave me what made my life. Teaching was my life, kids were my life. And this goes way back to 1980. That's my student council back up in Ohio. It's hard to believe those kids are now, in their 50s, 60s, 60s. Whenever I go back to the hometown, we always go up for a beer, and I always say, are you old enough? And they go, I'm 63, Mr. Miller. This one, on the right side, when I moved down here, Kim and I moved down here, they were just building Pedro Menendez High School. And Bill Mignon, the principal, I went to him, I didn't know him, went to him and said, I would like to start a club at the new high school called the Model United Nations. He said, love to have you do it, it's got to be voluntary. I said, great. So Kim and I took kids all over. This is not the Model UN, but we took kids to Europe for 20 years? And as you can see there, we are in Rome. Okay, it's not Rome, it's Paris. We're there at the Eiffel Tower. But my point of all that is, my focus is kids, and specifically teens, okay? Now, why did I get involved with suicide? As a teacher, I was certainly aware of suicide. I mean, you read articles on it. Or somebody may say, hey, did you see that article or that thing last night at our coffee hour? Yeah, I did. Yeah. Too bad. It wasn't until, and this is true I think of most of us, until something says it's not academic anymore. As a teacher, it was academic. It's like I taught history. I got to be honest with you, the American Revolution is academic. And today, of course, if you get a list of 400 dates, and if you can get them all, you pass, and I don't know what you do then, but it doesn't mean that you know the revolution. Emily on the left was 16 years old. 16 years old. And she hanged herself. And you go, that can't be. Nobody at 16. But I knew her, because she was one of mine. On the right is Ariana. She was in my club. One day I was going over to the embassy having coffee, and the kid, young man, by that time, was in my club too, and he said, did you hear about Ariana? No, because she had graduated the year before, 2 years before. Said she killed herself. That's when I saw, for me, it's not academic anymore. It's real. It's not something we can have a debate on, or we can have a formal discussion on. It's those two kids are what got me to where I am now. Now, I love this quote. It's not mine. I'll take credit for it, but it's true. That kids are only 20% of our population. 20%, maybe even a little less. But it's also true they make up 100% of our future. And I think sometimes we forget that. Going back to the kids that are now 63, obviously not kids anymore, but their life went on after high school. And they became adults, just like each one of us. There's not a person in this room that if I ask you, name one thing that stands out in your high school career, would say, yeah, I don't remember anything. We all do. And that's far back, but we remember it. We now are part of that 100%. That number of years ago, we're only part of the 20%. On the left, is this how I know everybody wants kids to feel this way? And you know, if you look at television shows, or you look at movies, or you look at congregation of kids on the beach, that's how we want them to be. I don't know if anybody says, yeah, I kind of hope these kids kind of suffer. But that being the case, and that being that most of us want that, why do so many of our kids end up like the picture on the right? It's an interesting question. There's not a person in this room, I don't think, I hope, I know, that would say, yeah, I don't care what happens to them. No big deal. Come on, they're kids. That's what we want. But why so many end up like that? And they're the ones we don't see. They may be right in front of us, but we don't see it. I'll give you an example. It's not so much the idea of mental health, but I did a highly scientific experiment 3 years ago. It's published in all the major, okay, it's not. I decided to walk across the campus at Flagler. And I wanted to see, because I'm a friendly guy, so let's say I didn't know any of you, and Jerry, you're coming toward me, I don't know you, hey, how you doing? That's what I would say. So I wanted to see what kind of response you'd get. Now, these are college kids. I crossed 17 kids. I kept track as a researcher. And as I walked by one of them, I would say, hey, how you doing? Out of 17, 2 acknowledged that I was there. And I don't mean like, oh my God. I meant a lot of them are like this. A lot of them were just like this. They didn't have anything in their hand, but I'm going, hey, how you doing? I think that's different than when we grew up. But the world is different now. And that contributes to a lot of problems we have now. Now, I want to get to statistics here because it's very important. Take notes if you want, but if not, I'll send them to you. The Journal of Journal of American Mental Health study says the youth suicide rate 14.6 kids per 100,000 is the highest ever since they started taking records back in the 60s. Now these are young people now, the highest. Now, since then, since 22 to 24, it's declined a bit, but it's still higher than it's ever been. But you want to keep that in mind. There will be a test on it. In 2016, suicide became the second leading cause of death for kids 10 and young people to 34. Usually people go, 10? Don't you mean 20? No, 10 to 34. The second leading cause of death, and the first one for teenagers. Anybody want to take a guess? The first leading cause of death for teens?
Drownings.
Was it?
Drowning?
No.
Drugs.
What?
Drugs.
No. Automobile accidents. Now remember, you want to keep that one down too, because the test is coming up. By 2017, over 13% of Americans between the ages of 12 and 25 had symptoms consistent with an episode of a major depression. In the previous year, a 62% increase in 8 years. Major depression. And as we go on, you'll see why most of us sitting here are going to go, I didn't know that. How would I know that? And there's an answer to that. Now, let's stick with the statistics. Remember, there's a test on those statistics I just gave you. And if you don't do well, you will not succeed in life. I want you to keep that in mind. I'm going to jump to a war here. My favorite war, World War I. And no, I didn't fight it. It's just historically, it's interesting. Total, one campaign, the Somme campaign, big battle, total British casualties, 57,000 people were killed of the British Army in 3 days. The total German casualties in 3 days, 110,000 lost their lives. Or 11,000, I'm sorry, 11,000, thank you. Just showed with my new eyes. But before you go on, read the top there. Understanding the horror of war. I just showed you the horror of war. How many of us are going, oh my God, the horror is just overwhelming. Or how many people are going, well, that's interesting, that's a lot of people. My guess, it's the second. You don't feel the horror of numbers. Now, my good friend over here, by the way, I did not say, and Jerry's put all this together for me, and I appreciate that. And I let him see my scarf for free, otherwise it's $10. Here's some more on the Somme campaign. The horror of the campaign itself. And I'm not going to read the numbers to you, but you can see them. On the left is the British casualties, in the middle of the French, and in the right the Germans. And once again, I don't know about you, but when I see this, my stomach just tightens up. On occasion, I have to admit, tears roll down my cheeks. It is so impactful. I know what you're thinking. This guy's nuts. Nobody has tears roll down their cheeks. But let me go on a minute. Let me go on to another look. Paul Farmer, MD. I'd like to tell you who he is. I have no clue. But I love this quote. Statistics create an emotional buffer. Charts and graphs are completely unsuited to capture the raw experience of suffering. 16% of kids attempt suicide. He's saying, it doesn't tell you anything. Let me jump back to the Somme campaign for a minute and try a different approach. And remember I told you my approach was different than the AFSP. Alan Seeger wrote this poem, World War I. I have a rendezvous with death. At some disputed barricade, when spring comes back with rustling shade, it may be he takes me by my hand and leads me to his dark land. I have a rendezvous with death. on some scarred slope of battered hill, and to my pledged word am true, I shall not fail that rendezvous. 3 months later, Alan Seeger was killed in a battle. He's part of that 80% or whatever it is. Which one has more impact? A single person's poem, a photograph, or did I tell you that there was 52,000 people killed in this battle? You and I know the answer to that. And that's where I want to go with suicide, with teen suicide. Not Alan Seeger, but let me tell you. Years ago when I was teaching, I had a young girl. Her name was Maddie. And she took her life. That was the first time. But it still was kind of academic. I was a relatively new teacher. About 8 months later, her mom, Elaine, came to my classroom after school and said, Mr. Miller, I want to give you this because I know Maddie would want you to have it. Okay. So she left and I read it. This is what she left before she took her life. I'm a little tired. So I think I'm going to sleep. I hope you understand that sometimes it's hard to breathe when my thoughts race trapped in my mind. It's time to say goodnight. Please don't forget that you mean everything. I'm sorry. I'm no good with words, but I love you. Please don't forget that. That's the last thing she wrote. That's powerful. That's powerful. And that's what I want, anytime I'm talking to a group of people, to walk out and go, oh my God. Not like, did you know 17%? Emily and Ariana are not statistics. They were my kids. And they are your kids. They were my kids. They were your kids. They're not 8%. Now, we get a little involvement here. This is going to be tougher. So I'm going to ask you to do something. Who is Ariana? You can see her picture. I'm going to ask each of you. I'll give you a question. And I want you to tell me about Ariana from the question you get, not in an academic sense. Not like, well, she's a teenager, you probably like. I want you to tell us as though you knew her. You want to be the first? Kim. What book did Ariana love to read?
Moby Dick.
No, don't give me that's like, remember this on a test. I'll give you an example. I knew Ariana, like you all did. And I know and you know she loved romance novels. That's what she read all the time. She had 100 of them taken out of the local library. Well, what she really liked, the best book, was Marianne and Frederick. Get the idea? All right, who's next? You know how not to do it now.
All right, Jeff.
You're next. Go.
Michelle.
You got the second question.
So the best friend's name was Joy, which is some irony considering the depression that Ariana would frequently find herself within. But when she was depressed, she did on occasion reach out to Joy, and Joy only wished that she had been there at the time that she needed her most.
Outstanding.
That is very good.
You know Ariana? Other than her best friend that we just heard about, what brought her joy? You guys all knew her. What brought her joy in this very difficult life? Oops. I can't take all the hands at once, I'm sorry. Esther?
Being with her friends, spending
No, that's an academic answer, like 1492.
Well, I go back that far, no.
You want to help her out?
Life.
Spending time by herself
Life.
reading.
Who said that?
That was Rich.
That was good.
Reverend, say that again.
Spending time by herself reading.
Ariana liked it, huh? Did she tell you that? And you had a thought too. What brought her joy?
Life.
Life. Oh, love it. What made her sad? Are you in? You coward.
The same thing, life.
No, you can't say same thing. You wouldn't.
Life made her joy and sad.
Life made her sad. You knew her. What about life made her sad?
Can't use friends, right? She would feel lonely, even when she was with her so-called friends. She had an empty feeling.
Excellent answer. I'll go back to you. You said life, right? What in life, we just heard the other side, what in life made her joyful? Is there any specific thing?
She liked to be with her siblings.
She what?
She liked to be with her siblings.
Ah, her brothers and sisters?
In the summer.
Yeah, older or younger?
And both.
Both.
And she liked to be in the sprinklers, sliding
Ooh,
on
running in the sprinklers. Sweet. I remember that. I remember her doing that. I remember her dad yelling at her. What occupation would most interested her? What was she going to be? She's 19. She just graduated. What was she going to be?
She was gonna be something in a helping profession.
Something in the
Helping profession.
helping profession. What made you think that? I mean, you know her. How'd you come up with that?
Because she cared about suffering of other people.
Empathetic? She was an empathetic kid. What do you think? You know her. I mean, both of us, well, know her.
I think she
What did
was,
she want to be?
she wanted to go into nursing,
Nursing.
yeah, so it was that same thing in that sort of.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet. Would she have done well?
She would have done well, yeah, she had the ability, yeah, to study, she was smart enough, she was dedicated enough. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Great kid. I don't know if you guys know this or not. I know the answer to this one because I had her in the club. But did you like to dance?
Sure. She did. She loved to dance.
What kind of dancing?
Just anything, just moving with the rhythms.
Okay, it could be.
Yeah, she just loved it.
Was she
When
good?
her dad was around, she just wanted to hold on to him and just dance
Sweet.
all around the room.
Was she very good at it?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, a dancer. You can tell. Other than my club, what was her favorite class in school? She went to Pedro Menendez. What was her favorite class that she said, wow, just hardly wait to get there? Yes, ma'am.
She loved dance class
Dance class.
and theater.
And theater. She,
And she was also into fashion, I think.
oh,
She loved fashion.
sweet. Now, here's the thing. None of us, except for me, none of us knew Adriana. Or Ariana. None of us. But you all related to her. You talked about her. She's not here. But she's real now. And that's what I want people to walk away with. Good answer, by the way. Good answer. Teens don't take their lives because they want to die. They take their lives to escape overwhelming pain. I think that's something to keep in mind. 4 or 5 years back, I was at a gas station. I had on, maybe I've worn it here, the AFSP shirt, and it said, it was the one for LGBT, be the voice, be the voice. And there was a guy standing next to me, and he says, suicide, huh? I said, yeah. He goes, those people are cowards, you know. I said, beg your pardon? He said, they're cowards. Now, he's a lot bigger than me. So I thought, I'm not going to dispute it, but I didn't say you're wrong. Kids, nobody takes their life because they say, oh, I'll be dead. I want to escape this, whatever this is. And keep in mind, this always comes from up here. You know, what's this to somebody is nothing to somebody else. And that's important to know. Because we can't relate to a young person based on our own view, as you see in another slide here. But we do that so often. A lot of teens, many teens die by suicide. You notice, by the way, I'm not using the term commit suicide. I picked that up from the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention, and that is no longer the term that is preferred. Died by suicide, took their own life successfully. It was a successful suicide. Their argument is, and I don't know if I buy it particularly, but when you say commit, you're suggesting that it's like committing a robbery. It's an evil thing. So that's why many teens die by suicide or attempt suicide have depression, it's a mental issue, are bipolar, personality disorder, or some other mental illness which amplifies the pain teens may feel. All of us here have had down days, but most of us don't. Your first thought is to go, well, that's the end. It's like, well, tomorrow will be better. But that's not true with everybody. By the way, this is not just of teens, this is adults too, but teens are my focus. And that's why I say when I'm reading, to escape unbearable pain. And unbearable is not something that you can quantify. It's not like, oh, this is a 6 on it. It's unbearable is what is unbearable to the person feeling it. And we'll come back to that point in a minute. This young man took his life, and his dad wrote, he was just the happiest kid. I never would have thought he would take his own life. He had everything going for him. He was popular, came from a great family. He did well in school. He had many friends, and the teachers thought very highly of him. I guess there's just no way of knowing. You hear that a lot. I understand. Ariana was just, I mean, you saw the picture of her. You saw the picture of Emily. Come on. I guess there's no way of knowing. That's wrong. I'm sure you've heard, if somebody is intent upon killing themselves, they're going to do it. You can't do anything about it. Myth. Yes, you can. But if you feel that, well, there's nothing I can do about it. This young woman on the right, Tiffany, by the way, I have her permission to show this. Tiffany now lives in Atlanta. She works for GM, isn't it, right? She's one of the kids in my club. Delightful child, not child anymore, but she's not 63 either. Just got engaged. Anyway, she said to me one day, you know, Mr. Miller, kids are good at hiding how they feel. I'm not okay. I'm just good at pretending I am. And how many times each of us in this room, and keep in mind, including me, you walk by and say, hey, how's things going? Great, good. And you keep on going. And you assume because they said great or whatever, it must be. I'm not okay. I'm just good at pretending I am. But this is important. Every teen that indicates, and by the way, adults too.
John.
Yeah. I have no idea.
He's got supplies.
He's got what?
He's got supplies, like cups and stuff.
Oh, they probably go back over there, I assume. They have something going on tonight. Every teen that indicates in some way that he or she may take their life must be taken seriously and treated now. I'll give you a little story. I had my kids up in Atlanta, not Atlanta, Athens, University of Georgia. We were at a Model UN conference. And a teacher went with me, a new teacher, wanted to be my assistant. And you guys know me well enough, I don't want assistants. But I'm a nice guy. So, she was a new teacher, and Kim and I were in our room, kids were having dinner, and she called me and she said, "Did Cassie find you?" I said, "No, why?" She said, "I don't know." She said, "I have to see Mr. Miller." She was crying. So just the knock comes on the door and it's Cassidy. And I said, "Cassidy, what's the matter?" Her boyfriend was a great Model Union member, but he stayed behind for some reason. He said he couldn't go to the conference. She said, "Mr. Miller, you gotta read this." And it was a text. And it said, "Cassie, you know I love you, but if I can find my dad's gun tonight, I'm ending it all." Well, I know everybody in this room would say, "Move now." I started to pick up the phone and the teacher said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm calling his mom, Elaine." She said, No, John, there's procedure. You call the principal. This Saturday night, you call the principal. Then the principal will call some in the guidance department, and then they will determine where they should be taken. I used a rather profane term and called Elaine. She went in and got Jared to the hospital. Then they referred him, they went down to somewhere near Miami. Here's the upshot of the story. About a year ago, maybe not less, Kim and I got a call from Cassidy. They lived in Maitland, they both lived in Maitland. And they said, "Would you have lunch with us?" I said, "Sure, why not?" So this goes back to Reverend's, this is the connection here. So we have lunch at the Floridian, and Cassie and Jared said, "We need a favor from you." "Sure, what do you need?" "We'd like you to officiate at our wedding." They're getting married. And I said, "Great, but you understand, I have no..." She said, "Oh yeah, you go on Universal Light." And so now I am, as we all know, a revered reverend, and I performed their wedding. Far away from, no, you call the principal. But you act now, right now. And the other thing, by the way, is if somebody tells you, "I'm thinking about taking my life," you don't go, "Well, let's wait and see. I wonder if I reported and she or he wasn't, maybe I'd feel like a fool." But wonder if you didn't and they did take their life, tell me you'd feel better. Most young people who take their own lives have told somebody, usually a friend, not an adult, and that they're going to do so, and when they plan to do it. Well, what does that tell us?
You better step in.
The what?
You better step in.
Yep, right now. There's a great quote at the end of this from a guy that you'll love. This comes from a guy named Jeff Yadkin. He's my hero. He's probably 55, older person. Anyway, he talks to kids. I mean, groups of kids, assemblies, and he's really good at it. But in one of his books he said, here's what I learned about what kids want from adults, what they want to know. 1, can I trust you? 2, do you care about me? That's all. Not how much money you have, or what kind of car do you drive. Can I trust you, and do you care about me? Yadkin, he's my hero. I think that's something to keep in mind. This came from one of my own brilliant children, not mine. They're brilliant too, but his name is Jason. When he said this to me, he was 16, 17. He was my Model UN president. And we were somewhere, I forget, we'd gone to the theater, and he got me aside, we were just talking. He said, "Mr. Miller, have you ever noticed that adults talk to kids, they talk about kids, they talk for kids, they talk at kids, but rarely do they simply and seriously talk with kids?" One of the things I wanted to do here, and I may try it again with the vestry, is somehow get a group of kids, not just necessarily from here, and let's take that group to groups of adults. And this time, these kids will talk to the adults and say, "We want to talk to you now." And the diocese and the vestry said, "Great." So that's where I'd kind of like to go that way. But can you imagine sitting with teachers, like 100 teachers or whatever, and you have 10 kids saying, "Okay, it's our turn now." Jason, by the way, now works in Washington, D.C. Otherwise, she's a good kid. There are many times adults talk when it's better to listen. I love this one. Grow up. Everybody goes through this. You'll get over it. Anybody ever heard that one? On the right-hand side, I'm here, honey, and I will listen to what you want to say to me for as long as it takes. Wow. That, on the left, goes back to what Jason said. Talk 2 kids, about kids, 4 kids. Really with. But what can you do? Well, first of all, you ask the person if they're thinking about taking their life. How many people have heard, if you ask somebody, that you're really kind of promoting them in that direction? That's conventional wisdom. If you ask somebody, they're liable to go, oh, I never thought about that. The exact opposite is true. And I had that experience with one of my students. Just after I read that, it was like a week later, I thought, oh my God, I'm supposed to do this. Ask the person if they're thinking about taking their life. That's one thing you can do. And if they say yes and they were lying to you, so. But if you don't ask and they take their life, like I said, you're going to feel better. Reduce the access to lethal items or places. Remember I told you Jared wrote if I can find my dad's gun tonight. Luckily, I know his dad, and it was always locked up. But it's amazing what's lethal out there. By the way, more girls attempt suicide. More boys are successful at it. Girls tend to, if I can use this term, their choice of death, not death, but their choice of weapon, if you will, are drugs, overdosage. And for boys, it's guns. Listen carefully to the person as how they're feeling and thinking. You gotta listen to them. As a teacher, that was one of the things I always did. You know, what do you got? I had a girl once who was a delightful kid. This is back in Ohio. And she was supposed to be working on a project. So I walked up and I said, aren't you supposed to be working? And she snapped back at me. I said, whoa. Yeah, I said, let's step outside a minute. So I went out. I said, is everything okay with you? She hesitated. She said, we were evicted 4 weeks ago. And this in February. We're living in our car. Later on, I was having lunch with some of my colleagues, and I told them the same story, and one, you know what I'm talking about, said, you didn't have that right, John. You should have taken her to the principal. I had her suspended. She disrespected you. Yeah. Help them to get in touch with resources like National Suicide Prevention Line 988. Used to be an 800 number, I remember. 988 is a suicide prevention number. And somebody will always answer. You know, nowadays you get, hi, you've reached 988. Our lines are very full now. If you'll call back in 4 hours and 15 minutes. With this, you get somebody right now. Take them to where they can get treatment now. Not like, what are you doing tomorrow? Because again, you may be wrong, but if you're going to be wrong, better be wrong that way. Hospital, wherever. I know Jared, his mom took him to the fire. And that got going. Studies show the number of suicide deaths go down when somebody follows up an at-risk person, and that's staying with them. What to look for in a teen and to take seriously: excessive sadness or moodiness. Everybody's sad, everybody's moody, but if it goes on and on and on. Withdrawal from friends and family. So you should go out and see your buddies. I don't feel like it. It happens, but it goes on and on. Changes in personality or appearance. Some kids, you know, they're well-dressed, not unlike me, and all of a sudden, they don't care what they wear anymore. They're telling you something. Dangerous or self-harmful behavior, cutting. Again, that's mostly girls. It's cutting with a razor blade. That's telling you something. Threatening suicide, and that could be just like, you know, I think the world would be better off without me. Or giving their possessions away. Or saying, my folks would be happy if I wasn't here. That's a subtle way of telling you. So, if you see a kid that seems to be having a bad day or seems down, does not herself ask, "Are you okay? Can I be of help?" Now, I told you this guy coming up, ask, yeah, we do that. "Are you okay? You okay?" This next guy is named Kevin Hines. Let me give you the story behind it. Then I'll give you the quote. It's a great quote. Kevin Hines was standing on the Golden Gate Bridge about to jump. And he said, nobody stopped. Nobody stopped. He said, one woman actually did stop, and he's ready to kill himself. Said, "Would you mind taking a picture of me with the Golden Gate Bridge behind?" He did jump. And believe it or not, he hit the back of a sea lion, broke both of his legs, but they were able to rescue him. He now deals with kids and suicide. And I love this quote. Remember this one here. "Ask, are you okay, or can I help?" That's Kevin Hines. Asking somebody, "Are you okay, or can I help?" can save a life, but you better be there with the answer. "You okay?" "Not really." "Well, I'll see what I can do for you. Just hang around." You better have the answer. And we just gave you some, call 988 or whatever the other ones were. Be here tomorrow. Some suggestions you might want to look at, if you want further information, the Jason Foundation. I'm certified by the Jason Foundation. It's a wonderful group. The man who started it, that was his son's name, Jason, took his own life. It's a wonderful program for teachers, adults, or anybody who works with kids. Sources of Strength is my best one. It comes out of North Dakota. The highest rate of suicide among youth of Native American kids. And this guy started it, called Sources of Strength, and the idea is to bring kids together and do things. I convinced the school system to start it eventually, but there's only one school that does it now, and that's Creekside. Ponte Vedra. The others, but take a look at it. It's a wonderful program. Churches can run it too. American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, as I said, it's a very good foundation, but it's almost all academic. And as you know, they're fundraising mostly, and I'm not good at that. That's why I'm not working for them anymore. This is the biggie for me, and if anybody wants to see me sometime and join the fight. 12 states have legislation that says if a kid comes to school or misses school because he had depression or whatever, it's an excused absence. So if you're in my class and you missed it and it says excused, depression, okay, you can take the exam. No other state other than those 12, including Florida, have that. So theoretically, I can say, "Well, I'm sorry, Johnny, you missed the test." "Yeah, but I just go, Johnny, that's not an excuse, you know that. You failed." The first state was Oregon, and the people that got it going were high school kids. It was a group out of the Oregon Student Council Association, and these kids went to the Oregon legislature all the time. They contacted their legislators, because they were from all over the state, and just ragged on them, whatever. And Oregon was the first to do it. Kentucky was the second. I was kind of surprised at that. No offense to Kentucky, but conservative. 12 states have it, like I said. Florida does not. I thought they were going to have one. A woman named Susan Valdez, who is the representative out of Tampa. I read that she was introducing this program. So Kim and I took 2 of our kids to talk to her. She said, "Yeah, bring them over." So we put them up in a hotel there, because these kids had never been in a hotel. And so we gave them a room, and we took them to dinner in St. Pete, and then went over. She talked to them for 2 hours. And the idea was, this club was a different club. It's called the Bridge Connection, Bridge over Troubled Water, but it never got out of the committee. So I'm trying to get a hold of her again. Contacting state representatives. So if anybody's interested in that, let me know. But it's not amazing to me that Florida doesn't have it, but it's sad that it doesn't. Let's talk about child and adolescent mental health. Be involved. Be involved. And of course, that's followed up with that great one that I started with. I used to say somebody ought to do something about that. Then I realized I was somebody. I thank you for your attention. Now, are there any questions, comments, or criticisms, or suggestions? I'm always up for suggestions, like I said, John's script program, if you want something else to do. I would take that one. Any thoughts?
I have
Yes.
a question for you,
Yeah.
John, because I was having a conversation yesterday, because I was talking with my friend that I play racquetball with, and he's retired now, but he was a high school counselor and
Mhm.
did a lot of crisis intervention. And during his whole tenure, he said, we, in our school, we only had, all the time I was there, we had 2 suicides. But we were talking about when we were in school, back when, back in the dark ages.
Right.
Many years ago, when we were young people. I don't remember anybody in my high school ever committing suicide. And I don't know whether it was that was hidden, that because it was, something to
Right.
be ashamed of if your kid committed suicide? Or, I mean, what do the statistics say about like when we were in high school as opposed to now?
Well, it's kind of like, there was no girl ever got pregnant in high school when I was in school.
Yeah.
Everybody was
No,
very
that's not.
You know what I'm saying? They just kind of disappeared. I think
Exactly right.
that there were, I mean, obviously there were, I mean, just statistically to look at it. One of the problems, probably then, but still true now, there was a young man at Pedro who fell from, I don't know if you know Pedro, but there's an inside courtyard,
Yeah.
and a second, fell off the walkway to his death. And I was out there and I thought, there's a rail and a rail and a rail. How do you fall off unless you're standing on the rail? And I talked to one of the teachers out there, no, you don't. But the school system said, no, it was a terrible accident. So my guess is, even back then, it happened. But nobody wants to know that. Just like I said, no girl ever got pregnant in my high school. Because they told me so. Anybody else? Anybody else?
Well, I used to be a pediatrician, I guess I am. One comment I will make is that LGBTQ youth try to commit suicide far more
Yes.
than regular
Yeah,
kids.
yeah. And sort of minority kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, LGBTQ is way up there.
60%, I know you don't like numbers, but of
No.
LGBTQ kids
Right.
will try to commit
Yeah,
suicide.
yeah.
That's huge.
Oh, it is, it is. In fact, I got that written down, I didn't mention it, but yeah, it's, and again, it's going back to sources of strength. It's, if you have acceptance in the school of no matter who you are, that's a great benefit. But yeah, LGBTQ kids are
And bullying, kids who are bullied.
bullying, yeah, yeah.
It's more of
Congrats.
a society issue.
It what?
It's a society issue.
It is. But again, I go back to, then I realized I was somebody, you know.
Well, I was wondering if the availability of the internet and everything now has any influence. People maybe engage in behaviors online that push them more. I mean, of course, one of the examples that made headlines was when some kid asked ChatGPT how to commit suicide
Yeah.
or something, and got that input and committed.
Well, there was, did you read about 2 or 3 weeks ago, a young woman was just convicted. She was urging her boyfriend, texting, urging her boyfriend to and he did.
Well,
Yeah, certainly the technological differences made. Bullying, used to be, you had to be there, but now you don't.
yeah.
Anybody else?
Adolescence is a tough enough time as it is for a lot of us,
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine, because I always felt kind of inept, I had, as I think back, I had a really good friend that just did a lot to pull me in socially. I don't think I was close to that, but I mean, it's just, that's, I don't think I was out of the norm,
Yeah.
for a lot of kids that just aren't good, but then the social media, I think, just can really
Oh.
magnify that, so if I felt like 2 people were, and whether it was happening or not, if I felt like 2 people were talking about me, it's a whole different thing than thinking that everybody in the school,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
is on this,
Yeah.
and is talking about, it.
Yeah.
So it's not the same, they're not growing up in the same world, you
Well,
know?
you know, a
What
lot-
Rich said is true, because now they do a lot of the bullying
Yeah.
on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With AI, they took girls' pictures and the AI made them nude.
Yeah,
And then they threw them around the school,
yeah.
and these girls were mortified, so.
Well, some states and all of Australia have made, there's an age that you, going to school, you cannot have your cell phone. You know, if you're, I don't know the age, but let's say 10, I don't know, you cannot have a cell phone in school.
You know, some schools are trying that, and they were trying that even when I was still practicing, and some of the parents are the worst, because
yeah.
they're like, no, my kid needs a cell
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah,
Because I need to get in touch with them, if
Yeah.
there's an emergency.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Just go to-
Yeah, parents have been, you know, I don't know.
Well, the other thing that I was having this conversation with my friend, he and I both had difficulties when we were teenagers. He was, one of only a couple of black students in an all-white school in Indiana. And, yes, there was lots of discrimination back then. In my case, I had some real physical problems, and I had, I won't go into the details, but I was basically, I was almost physically disabled, and I was in pain a lot and everything like that, and it was difficult,
Right,
and I said to him, I never ever considered suicide. Why? And, did you? And he said, no, never. Why?
Well, the person has a lot to do with that too.
and what?
The person has a lot to do with
Yes,
that too.
yeah, individual, yeah,
Yeah, but I think also resources. I mean, I think, in hearing him talk about his family life, and me, and certainly I know in my family life, that we had loving, supporting parents, and
that makes a difference.
that makes a huge amount of
Yeah, but
difference.
even if you have loving, supportive parents and you're going through mental health, we know someone that she was determined to take her life. So no matter what they did for her, she was going to take her life, and she did.
Yeah, in my last church, I had a transgender youth, who was hurt deeply by her previous church, but came, I said, no, here you can, she did everything, she acolyted, she was on the reading and everything, and her parents loved her, I mean, supported her unbelievably.
And she
But
had
even
mental
so-
counseling, and she's still.
She took her life.
You can't rule out mental health issues either.
Oh, yeah, well, she
Yeah,
definitely
I
had
mean,
major depression
we-
going on.
We had a woman at our church, well, the parents of this woman who was a doctor, practicing doctor, and just out of the blue, she took her life. And I suspect strongly it was a depression issue.
Well, if you've ever been real close to, as I have, with somebody who's bipolar, you know that they're not always in control of what they do and
Right.
their thought processes and so forth.
Well, it's interesting, I don't know the answers. I just know that we lose too many people that we shouldn't lose. And like I said, these programs, I'd love to see the one go through, see what our schools are doing. I mean, most kids, that's where they are most of the time,
Sure.
And teachers have got to be empathetic,
Have to be what, I missed the last, teachers have to be
Do
what,
what?
John?
Empathetic.
Empathetic, that's
Empathetic,
sorry.
yeah.
That's a big thing.
I'm not a big rule follower, as you all know. Like the woman said, well, you call the principal and so on and so forth. No, you don't do that. Some rules are okay, but some rules just are made up because people like to make them up. Well, thank you guys, I appreciate your time.
Thank you,
I
John.
do.
Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it, your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.